An expectant dog signifies the imminent arrival of adorable little puppies, but regrettably, certain owners choose to avoid the additional responsibilities. During a period when these dogs require love and care the most, they are abandoned, forcing them to fend for themselves. This heart-wrenching fate befell a mama dog who was 9 weeks pregnant and left outside an animal shelter. What unfolded thereafter is nothing short of astounding. Pregnancy is a challenging journey, regardless of the species. Hence, when this young puppy discovered she was on the verge of becoming a mother herself, she never anticipated the heart-wrenching act of her owners abandoning her at a shelter during one of the most vulnerable phases of her life. On the 22nd of December 2022, so close to Christmas, a white dog of an unknown breed was dumped in front of the animal shelter Instituto Amor and Paz IAPA, which means Love and Paws Institute in English. The difference with this dog, compared to many others who had been abandoned to fend for themselves, was that she was heavily pregnant. The IAPA is an animal rescue shelter that is located in the city of Sao Paulo in Brazil. With over 30 million stray dogs scattered across Brazil as of November 2021, and an astonishing density of 1,000 dogs per square kilometer in Sao Paulo alone, the shelter had grown accustomed to receiving its fair share of abandoned canines and strays in need of care. However, amidst this familiar scenario, a certain canine caught the attention of the shelter staff due to her visibly advanced pregnancy. They named her Nata Julie. Her noticeably swollen belly suggested she was nearing the end of her pregnancy, carrying a potentially large litter of puppies. Upon her arrival at the shelter, Nata Julie displayed understandable nervousness. It was no wonder, considering she found herself in an entirely new environment, far removed from her comfort zone. Abandoned by the humans she once trusted the most, she was understandably fearful for the well-being of her unborn puppies. Thankfully, the staff at the shelter were all incredibly loving and kind people who wanted nothing more than to make the mama dog feel comfortable and safe enough for her to have her puppies. The staff knew that it was important to help the dog settle quickly because if she didn't feel safe, then she could hold off on giving birth to her babies, which would put their lives and the mamas in danger. Thankfully, the staff were able to calm Nata Julie down and show her that they meant her no harm. Once the dog was settled in at the shelter a bit more, several members of the staff then decided to schedule the canine in to see the shelter's vet the next day. They were worried for Nata Julie's health, as she seemed to be quite weak and lethargic, as well as that they wanted to know how the animal's pregnancy was going and whether there would be any complications when the time came for the pup to give birth. After a lengthy health check, which also included an ultrasound scan on the dog's belly, Nata Julie was deemed in perfect health and allowed to return to the shelter for the remaining duration of her pregnancy. But if the dog was seen as healthy, why had she been abandoned in front of the shelter? She didn't look as if she had been neglected in any way, nor was she emaciated, which is how she would have looked had she been a stray living on the streets for a long period of time. After mulling over all of these different ideas for why the dog had been abandoned, the staff at the shelter eventually decided that whoever had owned Nata Julie must have grown worried once they had discovered that the dog was pregnant. Seeing how big the canine's belly had grown and guessing that she was carrying quite a few pups, the owner must have decided that they either couldn't afford to look after all of the animals, or they simply didn't want the trouble of doing so. This led them to abandon the dog at the shelter. While this was a sad thing to happen, it isn't an uncommon occurrence. But with no other option available to them, and with the staff wanting to do everything they could. To help Nata Julie and her puppies, the workers set up a watch on the mama dog. They wanted to make sure that someone was around when the canine gave birth just in case she needed their help at any point. During the process for a few days after the dog arrived at the shelter, a member of staff would constantly be with her. They would make sure that the pup had enough food and water to keep her going, and that she was as warm and comfortable as she could be. Often a member of staff would sit with Nata Julie in her kennel. They would then sit the pregnant dog up and lean her against them while they massaged her incredibly swollen belly. They hoped that by doing this, they would be able to alleviate some of the pressure and pain from the poor dog. As being so heavily pregnant was surely putting a lot of stress on her body, they also hoped that it would encourage the pup to give birth as the soothing circular motions happily moved things along in the womb. A few more days passed by and the shelter staff began to worry. Nata Julie was roughly 9 weeks pregnant now, which was bordering on overdue considering the average gestation period for a dog's pregnancy is between 58 to 68 days. Thankfully, though, veterinary intervention wasn't needed as not long after concerns were beginning to grow, not to. Nata Julie finally gave birth. It was early in the morning when the dog first went into labor. She had been moving around as if uncomfortable for quite a while. However, she eventually settled and laid down so that she could properly push her babies out in a safe and controlled way. All of the shelter staff were eager for Nata Julie to give birth as they were looking forward to seeing the dog's adorable little puppies for themselves. However, what happened next was unbelievable. As the first puppy arrived into the world, one of the shelter staff picked it up and brought it to its mama's face so that she could lick it clean and begin bonding with it. The first pup was a gorgeous little boy who had a white coat just like his mama. Once the first puppy was born, it wasn't long until the next one came along as well. Everyone was incredibly excited for the arrival of the baby dogs, and they wondered just how big Nata Julie's litter would be. On average, dogs will have between 5 to 6 puppies per litter, but after a few hours of hard and intensive labor, the shelter staff were amazed at what they were seeing. Nata Julie amazed everyone by giving birth to an incredible litter of 14 puppies, and miraculously, each one survived. These puppies were adorable miniatures of their mother, bearing her distinct pure white coats and charming little pink noses. Their resemblance left no doubt about their lineage. Once all the puppies were safely delivered and accounted for, the shelter staff diligently arranged regular veterinary checkups to monitor their growth. Thankfully, all the puppies were in perfect health and were rapidly growing bigger each day, a testament to the sheer number of babies Nata Julie had brought into the world. However, due to her limited milk production capacity, Nata Julie couldn't feed all of them simultaneously with her limited number of teeth. To support Nata Julie, the shelter staff devised a strategy. They separated the puppies into smaller groups, ensuring that only a few of them nursed at a time. Through a careful rotation system, all the puppies received their fair share of nourishment, ensuring their healthy development. The shelter staff was overjoyed for Nata Julie and her remarkable journey as a mother. They held high hopes that once the puppies grew to an appropriate age, they would find new and loving forever homes where they could enjoy a lifetime of happiness and care. This story is truly remarkable. Please share your thoughts on it in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to share it with your loved ones. To stay updated with our channel, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thank you for your support.